In the following segment, we're going to show you how you can install Infolytik MetaMiner Enterprise onto your Windows class server-grade server. The first thing you're going to want to do is obtain the Infolytik MetaMiner media. If you're part of the Global Optimization Workshop, you should have gotten a link in an email that looks something like this, welcoming you to the GOW with a download link. Alternatively, you may have gone to the website to infolytik.com/downloads, where you can go ahead and request the trial for Infolytik MetaMiner. Go ahead and fill in the form, hit request download, and then wait for a response directing you to a link to download the software. Once that's done, you're going to copy the MetaMiner Enterprise media to your server. Now let's take a quick look at this machine. Here we can see that we've got enough space on the E drive with 111 GB free disk. Keep in mind that MetaMiner comes with an embedded database that could take anywhere from 20 to 100 gigabytes of space as it collects information from your business objects or Tableau landscapes. Now let's go ahead back to the installation file. Now what we're going to do, right-click on the installation file and run as administrator. You'll notice that a user access control dialog pops up. You can go ahead and look at the details of the certificate. It is a valid certificate. Now let's go ahead and click Yes. MetaMiner is preparing the files for installation. Now that the files have been prepared for install, it presents us with an installation wizard. First thing I notice is the version, MetaMiner 5.2.2532. Make sure you're obtaining the latest version of MetaMiner from Infolytik. Next, we're going to go and click on the Next button. We accept the agreement. We click Next. And remember from earlier that we're not installing to the C drive, which is the operating system, but rather the E drive here. So we'll go ahead, change C to E, and when I hit the Tab key, notice that I can now see 112 GB, which is the target installation drive of MetaMiner. Click Next. And in our case, we're going to install both MetaMiner server and client. While this server is being the dedicated MetaMiner server, it's useful to also have the MetaMiner client file installed for troubleshooting or in scenarios where someone wants to log on to the server and use the client there rather than install their own workstation. It's recommended, however, that you obtain the MetaMiner Enterprise client for Mac or PC and install that on end users or workstations of the administrators or architects who will make use of MetaMiner, connecting to the MetaMiner server remotely in a secured fashion. Let's click Next. If you already have MetaMiner installed for some reason, it's going to go ahead and close all of those instances before continuing the install. If you are updating an existing MetaMiner installation, you should be using the MetaMiner update file, and you should follow along with the separate video called Updating Your Existing MetaMiner Installation. This installation is for new installs only, or if you're migrating your MetaMiner installation to a new server and you want to install MetaMiner new for the first time. Let's click OK. And now MetaMiner is preparing the install and will shortly begin installing. And now the installation and deployment of MetaMiner to the E drive has begun. The installation is complete. The last step of the wizard already has the Run MetaMiner Admin checkbox checked. With it checked, when we click Finish, MetaMiner is immediately going to go into the administrator tool that allows us to configure MetaMiner with one or more of our business object systems. Let's click Finish. The administrator now starts. The first thing that we see is Configure SAP Business Objects Environment, or Add One. If you have a different license, or a non-basic license or an enterprise license, it may have asked you for locating that license file on disk, at which time you would have done so, and then start to configure your system. Now in our case today, we're going to go ahead and direct MetaMiner towards our Business Objects BI 4.2 production environment. Now before we do that, we're going to need a few things handy when we enter the configuration items. We need an administrator level user in the CMC under the administrators group. We need the audit database credentials. We need the CMS database credentials. And we need the BI Launchpad URL. Let's go ahead and check all of those things. I'm logging into the Business Objects production environment, or could be a sandbox or dev, that I want MetaMiner to connect to so I can start exploring and analyzing and administering that system through MetaMiner. So we start the CMC and we log on. Once we do that, we then direct ourselves to the Users and Groups menu, and now click on Administrators. Under Administrators, we can see that we've got MetaMiner Admin. We added this user specifically for MetaMiner. We strongly suggest using a new user by creating one like this, rather than using the existing administrator or other active interactive user accounts. That's because MetaMiner does invoke audit events as it collects information, and by using a specific account for MetaMiner, you can very easily strip out the utilization information from your audit data. Let's go back to MetaMiner Administrator. So we're going to name this environment a friendly name, like prod BI 4.2. And now we're going to enter the host name where one of our central management servers are running. So if this is a cluster with multiple nodes, it should be one of your node hosts that has the CMS exe process. Now the BI Launchpad URL. And for that, we can just copy this here and paste that. And now we're going to type in that MetaMiner admin account that we had entered as a administrator, or administrator in the administrators group in the CMC. Let's test that connection. Everything looks good. Now we're going to use the next configuration area to configure our audit and CMS database. This business object system is configured with SQL Anywhere. So we choose SQL Anywhere, and we choose our host of where the database is installed, the database name, the username, and password. The connection looks good. And finally, we configure the CMS database. The CMS database doesn't have to be configured, but we recommend doing so as it increases the performance of MetaMiner and also reduces any stress on your BI platform. Although not clicking this will also not cause much stress, but in very large systems, it's recommended for efficiency purposes and also to track and monitor the health of your CMS. We click the checkbox, which is going to copy over database fields from the audit database side, which is very typical of most installations. Now for the database name, username, and password. So everything looks good here too. At this point, we're going to go and press Apply. And now my environment is configured. If you have other environments, you can go ahead and add them from here. MetaMiner supports all versions of business objects, including all service packs and fix packs, from 3.1 to 4.2 SP7, and any service pack or fix pack related to them. Next, let's check on the MetaMiner tunings of the process to make sure that MetaMiner runs as effectively as possible. To do that, we go to Preferences, Settings, System, and we can see here that the MetaMiner JVM's by default allocated to 2 GB. For most systems, we recommend about 6. If you have a very large system, you may need more. I go to my task manager and I look at how much available memory I have. You can see that I've got 21 gigabytes available. That's plenty of space, or plenty of RAM, to allocate 6 gigabytes to the MetaMiner process. If you have more than 50 concurrent active users at any time in the CMC under sessions, you may want to increase this number to 8. And if you have over 200, you may want to increase it to 10. We also recommend having 4 cores. In my case, I have 8, right? 2 sockets and 4 virtual processors, but have at least 4 for MetaMiner for optimal usage. So let's go ahead and configure this to 6. And now let's also click the OK button. There's one more thing we want to configure. You can see by this triangle, which I could have gotten to the Preferences menu and the email section. We want to configure MetaMiner to send notifications in case there's any problem with your business objects landscape, or if you're installing this for Tableau with your Tableau landscape. It also allows you to configure the notification system so that you can make use of MetaMiner alerts, notification workflow, backup restore, report validation, and more. So let's click on Enable Notifications. And now we'll go ahead and type in our information. Typically, what we've found is that this is oftentimes the same configuration as found in your job server destination configuration. So you may want to go to your CMC under servers, under a job server, and see what settings are there and reuse those if that's allowed in your organization. We click Test, and now we click OK. MetaMiner is now set up and ready to go. But you do see that there's one red mark here. Just go ahead and click Test and Save, and verify that the embedded Postgres database that comes with MetaMiner is ready to go. If you're using MetaMiner Enterprise with an enterprise license key or professional license key, at this point you'll want to go ahead, click on this Open, and then choose the actual license key you were provided from Infolytik and press Open. In this case, for the Global Optimization Workshop, you're just going to go ahead and keep the license key that's been already auto-selected here. Now let's go ahead and click Start Server. Now MetaMiner server is running. Once we click Start Server, we want to take a look at our email and take note of the initial notification messages MetaMiner sends us. It'll send us 2 emails. One email about the initial pull starting, and a follow-up email telling us that the pull is complete. We're going to go and take a look at that now. If we go to our inbox, you'll see that there's an Infolytik MetaMiner server event. It says initial pull done no. MetaMiner server hosted on the server where we installed MetaMiner has started. And it tells you all the different environments that MetaMiner is connected to. So in our case, we only configured one system. It's enabled, it has auditing enabled, and it's in the process of being extracted for the initial load. Now once MetaMiner completes this process, incremental extractions will happen every couple of minutes and have no impact, just like the initial load has no impact on your live production system. And after a few moments, depending on how large your system is, MetaMiner produces another MetaMiner server event email. This time it's saying initial pull done, yes. It's at this time we can go back to our workstation where we may have installed MetaMiner client, or go back to the MetaMiner server itself and type in meta, which then gets us to the MetaMiner installation files, admin and client. And we click on MetaMiner client, and in just a few moments we'll see at the top BI4008. We can type that here in case the firewall's restricting the auto detector. And we type in the MetaMiner host here, hit connect, and we can see the one environment that it's been configured for. Click Apply, and now you'll see that MetaMiner is now available and ready to use. And that's all there is to installing, configuring, and starting MetaMiner.